So our speaker tonight is Colleen Dieter. She is with, among other things, Central Texas Seed Savers. You may have seen her on Central Texas Gardener this past weekend, as Leon had. And she also is a certified arborist and has a certificate in fruit tree care. I learned about her from watching a Williamson County chapter presentation quite some time ago, and I was like, this is really good. We need her to come talk to our chapter. So let's see. So she is one of the founders of Central Texas Seed Savers, which is a nonprofit whose mission is to prevent the extinction of culturally, ecologically, and culinarily important plants by growing a network of people who participate in the process of seed collection, sorting, and sharing, kind of like us. And their website is centraltexseedsavers.org. Welcome, Colleen.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, y'all. I really appreciate the invitation to come down to see you. And the Yellow Bells Tacoma Sands variety Angostada is a really good example of why seed saving and seed sharing is so important. And because it's so hard to find that native variety. You know, you can buy all of the cultivars at the tropical type at the nurseries, but it is really hard to find the native type at the nursery. The only grower that I know that has it is that wholesale growers outside of Austin, native Texas wholesale nursery, they grow it, but you have to, you know, hope that you find it at the retail nursery where, you know, the growers, where they bought it. Yeah.
Yeah, on the nipsod.org website, there is a database of nice growers, natives improve and conserve the environment. You can look for that, and there's a map of all the locations that are registered statewide as perhaps ideas for where to shop.
So that way, if you have that plant and you collect the seed from it, then you know you can share that seed with others, especially in the NIPSOT group, and even with growers who might be able to grow it for your plant sales and stuff like that, to be able to share it so that we have the native genetics preserved so that we get that cold hardiness. That's so important for us as Texas gardeners, because we have so many challenges here growing between the heat and the cold and the drought and the rain. So that was a really good thank you for that plant of the month, because it is one of the easier plants to save seed from too. So it's a really good beginner seed saver because the flowers drop off and a bean pod forms in its place. So it's really clear and easy to see the bean pod, and you just can wait until the bean pod starts to turn brown on the plant and then collect those pods. I say bean pod, they're not really beans, but they look like that. And you can collect those from the plant right when they start drying out, and then share them and open up the pod, and there's dozens of seeds inside, and each little seed is connected to a little kind of papery filament so that they can fly on the wind. And each one of those has the potential to become a new plant. And so they're really easy to share and save. And that's one that we see a lot at the at the seed swaps that we do. Yeah.
So to get the seed,
yeah,
you would not deadhead them.
Exactly. And so she just asked for everybody at home on Zoom, she asked, in order to get the seed head, you would not deadhead the flower then. So that is one of the challenges of seed saving, is that as gardeners, we are so kind of trained to deadhead and to keep the garden very, very clean. You know, the term seedy is a bad term, you know, if you're in a seedy neighborhood or something like that, things are going up. So that's, you know, we're trained to keep things really tidy. But in order to collect seeds from plants, you have to see the plant through its whole life cycle, you know, of blooming and then going to seed. And sometimes when the plants are going to seed, they don't look as good. So that's important to keep in mind, okay? And so my challenge to all of you this year, I'll get to your question in 1 second. My challenge to all of you this year is to consider tracking one plant in your garden or in your neighborhood that you can follow its whole life cycle through and learn how to collect seed from just that one species. So maybe it's a plant that you just really enjoy seeing a lot, or one that attracts butterflies for you or something like that, or just a plant that you want to learn more about. Just follow that one plant through, because the seed saving techniques are different for every different species. And it can be a little overwhelming if you try to embark on a journey to learn about seed saving at large, because it's so different for every plant. So if you just start with one plant and kind of get that experience collecting seed just from one species, it's a really good way to just ease into it and get to know just that one plant. Okay, yeah, what was your question?
Sorry, just a quick feed from chat. Pam Henderson says, his problems that isn't available in King Feed.
Oh, yay, that's good to know. Okay, awesome. Available at King Feed, y'all, for everybody on Zoom.
Well,
Will they get it on the chat? If you see it on the chat. Okay, so that was awesome to get into that even before I started. So here we go. Gonna do a little introduction of what we're gonna talk about today. I'm gonna introduce myself. We're gonna talk about Central Texas seed savers, seed collecting basics, why, what, when, where, and how, and then a little bit about seed distribution too. When you're a certified arborist, you get to use a green laser pointer. So when I became a certified arborist, this was my gift to myself. So if you ever do, as for NIPSOT or any of your other garden clubs or anything, if you ever do any outside presenting, the green laser pointers work outside. So you can point at stuff in the sunlight. So here's me. This is a picture of me teaching a class at the Wildflower Center. I teach a lot of classes around town. This is where you can see everything that I do, because I do a lot of things, but I own a business that's called Red Wheelbarrow, and the website is atxgardens.com. And I'm a landscape consultant. So I help my customers by alleviating their anxieties about their yards. So basically, I help do-it-yourselfers figure out what to do when they have problems. So everything from, I keep planting plants in this one spot and they all die and I don't know why, to like our patio is too small, or we're not sure what's wrong with the patio, or erosion problems, or we just bought a new place and we don't know what any of the plants are, and helping people get to know their new yards and things like that. So anything having to do with landscaping questions, that's what I do for a living. I have a zine for sale on my website that's called Let's Care for Texas Plants. And a zine is something from the 90s, from when I was in high school. It's like a homemade magazine, basically. And Let's Care for Texas Plants is a maintenance guide. Because before I was a consultant, I was a personal gardener specializing in maintenance. So I had my set group of customers in Austin who all had really complicated yards that needed a real gardener, not just like a mow and blow type company. And so that's how that's how I learned how to care for all the native plants, and also well-adapted plants are in there too. So you can check that out. That's available on my website for sale at atxgardens.com. And then I have a podcast called The Horticulturati that I do with my friend Leah. It's just two landscape designers chatting with each other about our businesses and topics that we are interested in learning more about. It really runs the gamut. And then I have a radio show on Saturday mornings on KLBJ AM 590. I don't know, do y'all get AM 590 down here? Or do y'all get the, okay. So you can catch me Saturday mornings from 8 to 9 if you're an early bird. You can call me or text the station with your gardening questions for me. It's a call-in show. As I said, I'm a certified arborist, and then I also have a fruit tree certification because I really love food and I really love trees, and it's the crossover between food and trees. And I'm going to tell you all about Central Texas Seed Savers. Basically, what we're trying to do is prevent extinction of plants that are important to Central Texans. Okay. And really, here in Central Texas, as I said earlier, our climate is so unusual. It's not like any other place in the world. Our soils are incredibly unusual, not like many other places in the world. And that makes it really challenging to garden here. And it's really important for us to be sharing seeds of plants that do well here. And tonight during this talk, I'm going to be focusing on native plants because this is the NIPSOT chapter. But we also save seeds, encourage people to save seeds from vegetables, fruit trees, all kinds of plants, herbs, anything that's well adapted here that does well for us too. And the organization actually started out saving vegetable seeds, like from heirloom varieties of vegetables primarily. And then since then, we've just gotten a lot of people really interested in saving and sharing native plants too, because the native plants are so hard to find in cultivation at nurseries. So it's a frustrating problem that we're trying to help. So that's what we're doing. And I'm so delighted to find out that y'all are starting the seed library here at this library. That's how we got our start as an organization with seed libraries. And I'm so delighted to hear that one is starting here, and it's just spreading all over Texas. It's really exciting. So we started out in 2018. Basically what happened was I was teaching seed saving classes, and after one of the classes, someone from California came over to me and said, you know, the town I just moved from had a seed library at their local library. How come Austin doesn't have a seed library? And I said, I don't know, we really should. And there was a woman standing next to her that said, well, I'm the gardener at the new library in downtown Austin. Why don't we ask the librarians? And that's all it took. Was just asking the librarians. So I know y'all are opening one here. If you have friends in other towns, anywhere, if they don't have a seed collection at their library, just ask the librarians. And almost all the librarians that anyone has asked that I know of, almost all of them have said yes. And the only times when the librarians have said no is because there's so many small town libraries around Central Texas where they're closing the old library, getting ready to open a new library. And so they'll say, well, we're going to have a seed library at the new library. So it's just sort of put on hold. So for the most part, the librarians are open to it. The librarians need input from the public community coming in and asking for something. In most cases, the librarians aren't allowed to just do whatever they want to do. There has to be community input. And a lot of times the librarians are just waiting for someone to ask. Yeah, that was the case in Austin. So that's how we got started. And then we are now a project of Fruitful Commons, which is a nonprofit organization that sponsors community agriculture projects in Central Texas. And they help us as basically being our nonprofit kind of oversight organization, where they provide our administrative backbone, like the board of directors and insurance and things like that. So it's a really great organization that we're a part of. And so now we help support over 20 local seed libraries in Central Texas. Any questions about that? Yeah.
You also work with the LPJ. So they have like seed repository as well, share stuff back.
I don't know. Do you mean the presidential library?
No.
Or Weaver Johnson?
I'm sorry.
Yes, they have a seed bank, and yes, their seed bank is my understanding is that their seed bank is, you can only request seeds from that seed bank if they are for research use. So it's not really for general public use. But we do have a really good relationship with them. And we are trying to start a community seed bank. So we have visited with them a few times to be able to see their facilities, basically to see the freezer that they use and how they track all the seeds and stuff like that. And that's part of the vision for Central Texas Seed Savers, will be starting a seed bank so that we can freeze seeds for community use too, and grow them out, protect them, particularly vegetable seeds. That's going to be really important. So I can ask some of y'all to tell me, why are you here this evening?
Everybody's got to be somewhere.
Everybody's got some here. I know I have a friend that does like all kinds of, a friend that does all kinds of volunteering and stuff like that. And people always say like, oh, you do so much for the community. How do you do it? And she was like, what am I going to do? Watch TV? You know, just be at home watching TV. Why don't I come here to this meeting instead? You know, so it's nice. Yeah. Why are y'all interested in native plants?
So well adapted.
Yeah, because they're easy to grow. They're so well adapted.
Feeds wildlife.
And it feeds wildlife. Yeah, you're thinking about the full ecosystem too, right? Thinking about all the critters that depend on the native plants for survival. Right? What else? So that kind of what makes Texas, Texas, right? Makes, you know, when you drive through the hill country is very specific place. You know, I have a friend who, she told me she's lived all over the world. She could live anywhere she wants to. She came back, she grew up in Austin. She came back to hill country. She wanted to live here. After traveling everywhere, she wanted to come back here because it's such a special place. So having those plants around and preserving those plants is really important. And what are some of the challenges that native plants are facing, y'all? Yeah.
Deer and invasive species.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
I would say those imbalances, development, climate change.
Climate change. Yeah. So maybe climate change, development, deer. And who else? Someone shouted something out on Zoom. No. No? Okay. So that's all good stuff for us to be thinking about how important these native plants are to us, and how much pressure there is right now on native plants. As a landscape consultant, I get to see all kinds of properties, and the deer pressure is just really, really detrimental, especially to trees. And I'm going to talk a lot about trees toward the end of the presentation tonight. So thank you all for participating in that part of the presentation. So I want you all to know a little bit about seed collection. Who and what, of course, anybody can be a seed collector. Some people really get the bug for it. And it's really cool because the seed collections at the libraries can really be powered just by a handful of people who get really addicted to seed collection. There's something very human, sort of basic human about gathering, collecting and noticing when the seeds are ready. You're noticing that plant that you hadn't noticed before. Oh, there's a big tooth maple. Oh my gosh, they're rare. We got to get seeds from that one. You know, that happened to me. I can't stop. We have some of the people on our like working groups and stuff like that who are the same way. They just can't stop, and they have like a memorized map in their mind of like where all the big tooth maples are that they've ever seen, you know. So sometimes people get really into it, and that's all you need for supporting a whole community, because the plants are so prolific and so generous. All it takes is just a few people collecting to really supply a library to share with the whole community. So it's really neat. And so definitely seed collection is an all ages activity. I know dandelions are not native. I love dandelions. I planted them on purpose at my house because I like to eat the greens. But it's a good gateway for seed collecting, you know, to understand the process of the plant, that the plant starts out with just few leaves, and then a flower emerges, and then that flower turns into seeds after it's pollinated. And understanding that process is so important. And people, I found, regular people do not understand that anymore. There are a lot of people that have no idea that the plant flowers and then makes a seed and goes through this life cycle process. They don't know where seeds come from.
HEV.
So, right, yeah, HEV. That's where your food comes from. That's where the plants come from, right? So it's really important, even just to get to this point of kind of understanding that plants are alive and that plants proliferate themselves through seeds and go through a cycle of blooming and then producing seeds. Okay, so it's for all ages. And what we want you all to do is collect local seeds. And of course, since this is a NIPSOT chapter, y'all will be collecting native plant seeds in this case, which is great. So, but here I've said we also do vegetables, well-adapted landscape plants, trees, especially, and I'm going to talk more about trees. Here's a picture of pearl milkweed going to seed. That's a great native plant that you cannot buy at the nursery. You know, so important to pollinators and such an easy plant to grow. And here it is. This is a great one for collecting because it's very easy to see the pod as it develops and then eventually starts to dry out. And right when it starts to dry out, you can cut the pod off right before it opens. And here it is, a picture of it open. And then you can bring those seeds to the library. Do you have a question?
Yeah, you were just mentioning specific to pollinators.
Yeah.
I guess right away in there too, like what would be some recommendations for bees and specific
Plants that bees love?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So any of the salvias are great for bees. Things like one of my favorites is Henry Dulberg sage. Salvia farinaceae variety, Henry Dulberg. Yeah, that's the one. And then y'all didn't know that I spoke Latin, did you? Just like the Pope. So actually in the next slide, we have the picture of the fall obedient plant. This is another good one for bees. Do any of y'all grow the fall obedient plant? Once you have it, you will always have it. So don't ever, this is one where it's like, don't ever buy that plant. Somebody will dig some up for you and give it to you because it not only does it make seeds, but it also propagates itself through rhizomes. The little stems will root. It's in the mint family, so it has that characteristic. So it spreads a lot, but it's native. But this is a great one for bees too. Yeah, I'm a pollinator gardener myself. My front yard is a butterfly garden. I really like that. Oh, another one is the flame acanthus. That's another good one for bees. I've seen a lot of bumblebees on mine. So yeah, it's a really good one. And that's another one too, where once you have it, you always have talk about, they make a lot of seeds. So when to collect is one of the hardest parts of seed saving, is knowing when the seeds are ready. And so that's why I want to ask you to just learn about one species and try to research that one plant or just one group of plants, one species, because that way you'll kind of be able to monitor the plant as the flower starts to fade, and you can start looking for the place where the seeds start to form, and you can kind of experiment by poking around on that plant, kind of busting open some of the seed pods and stuff like that to see when they're ready, And so this was one that a friend of mine, she tried to collect the seeds from the fall obedient plant, and she collected too early. She just started collecting the dead flowers, and didn't realize that the dead flowers weren't the part that held the seeds. And that was okay, because I was able to explain it to her, and then she was able to go back and collect the seeds later when they were ready, because the process from flower to ready seed can be very long for some species, months or even a whole year sometimes, depending on the plant. So that's why it's important for you to try to just focus in on one plant, learn about the seeds from that one plant. Okay, and kind of experiment with, well, where are the seeds on this plant? Where do the seeds form? Most of the time, you'll know the seeds are ready when they're dark in color. If they're pods and capsules, a lot of our native plants make pods and capsules, like the Tacoma stands we're talking about, and the fall obedient plant makes little capsules, little round capsules. And they're usually dry when they're ready. Usually when they're starting to look kind of crackly. And this is where, as a gardener, it's a little bit hard, because sometimes you want to run out there and cut the dead flowers off of plants, but if you want to save seeds from some of them, you have to make a point of not deadheading them or not cutting them back. At my house, if there's a plant that I want to collect seed from, sometimes I will tie a ribbon around it so that I'll remember that's the one plant that I want to collect seed from. And the other plants of that same species, maybe I'll go ahead and deadhead those or prune those, but there'll be one that I'll focus on collecting from. So little things like that can help the process of seed collection, where you just leave one plant alone. That's a tip from the vegetable gardening world. Like most people who collect vegetable seeds will do that. They'll keep one plant in the vegetable garden to collect seed from, and then they'll pull out all the other old plants of that species and just collect from that one plant that they put a ribbon on to remember. Does that make sense, y'all? So this is in general, you can kind of look for, capsules that are dry, firm, dark in color, that kind of thing. Okay, y'all? Any questions about that? The when? Yeah.
Colleen, what I do, because I'm a lazy seed collector,
Yeah.
I use organza bags, jewelry bags. Is as soon as the flower starts dying, meaning it's been pollinated, it's done its business, is I cover it with an organza bag, tighten it up and leave it on, because especially things like milkweed, because once it pops, and you could go from a hard pod to an empty pod within a day. So that's what I do, and it's, as I said, it's a lazy person's technique, but it's very successful.
I love that tip. So I'm gonna share that with everybody on Zoom. Is that if you're collecting seed from a plant that is going to have pods that dry out, and then when they dry, you know, the seeds either fly out on the wind or explode out. Like bluebonnets are a really good example of that. You can put an organza bag, like a little bag, over the pod to catch the seeds as the pod is ripening. That way, because you're right, because he was saying like if the pod, as it matures, if you miss it one day, you know, all the seeds are gone the next day if it's windy. Or if they're bluebonnets, they explode and fly all over the place, so you'll never find them. So that's a really good tip. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
Could you, one of you two, explain a little more about the size of that bag and how it looks?
Yeah, come on up. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're like little fabric bags. You can use paper bags too, with like a twist tie.
Have you ever been to like a favor at a wedding? Yes.
Yeah.
That's the bag.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, well,
Yeah, like a little,
You can actually tie these around fruit too.
yes, you
Keep
can use it for,
flies and
Yeah.
raccoons away from it.
right. Yeah, a lot of people will use those organza bags for protecting fruit on their fruit trees from insects and animals. When you tie this little bag around the fruit as it's developing, as it's developing. I love that tip, and I've heard of people using paper bags, twisted ties too, just like a lunch sack size paper bag, you know, brown bag. All right, great tip, thank you. So now we're gonna talk a little bit more detail about when. So you can see, this was my friend Stephanie who collected the, she made this collage of her experience trying to collect the fall obedient plant seeds. So here's where it just finished blooming here, and there's more flowers to come at the top. But you can see where the seed capsules are going to form here. They haven't yet. Okay, and these are just the dead flowers. And then weeks later, she said, whoops, oh no, losing my pointer. Weeks later, you could see how it started drying out. Okay, and that's how, this is where the capsule starts to form right here. Okay, where the flower was. And weeks later, then the seeds become ripe and the stem will start to dry out and turn brown, right? And so that's when a lot of gardeners would go out and start cutting them down because they look ugly because they're brown, you know. But if you want to keep the seeds, you've got to keep the brown stems there until they're fully ripe, you know. And that's where you could slip a bag over like a long, like a whole paper bag over one clump or something like that to try to catch the seeds. These are usually pretty easy to catch because they do form little capsules that don't really open. Or you can, when it's time to collect the seed and this whole thing is dried out, you can basically cut the whole stem off and then dump it into, oh, man. Well, thanks.
Well, that's yours.
Yeah, that's mine.
Okay. What's the guidance?
Oh, maybe if you have any. Thanks. I don't know if that's what's wrong, but you can basically cut the stems off and then use like a big paper shopping bag and just dump them in there. You turn the stems upside down in the shopping bag and kind of shake it and the seeds will come out. Okay, so that's a good way to do it too. Yay, thank you. Awesome. Okay. So that's one example of the timing for the fall obedient plant. Okay, y'all? And then here's the wherever you can. Keep an eye out for plants for future seed collection. Collect from only the most healthy plants when possible. Try to collect from multiple individual plants if you can to get some genetic diversity. Sometimes that's not possible, especially with trees. With plants that are particularly rare, you know, you may only find a few plants or may only have a few plants in your yard. So always be ready. I think y'all are gonna get into this. Yeah.
Isn't there a general rule of thumb, especially if the population of that plant is rather small? What percentage would you take?
Yes.
What percentage of seeds?
I believe that's on the next slide. I'll talk about what percentage of seeds it's okay to take. Yeah, because there are a lot of ethics, like legal things to consider, and ethics, especially for this group, the native plant folks. It's a good idea if you haven't yet to learn how to use iNaturalist. It's a really good app for tracking where you've seen the plants and where others have seen the plants. And if you all decide to start collecting seeds in your chapter, you could even start an iNaturalist project so that you can share with each other where you've already collected seed from. So that's cool, and that way you'll know if someone else has already collected from those plants. And so I have a little kit in my car that I keep for collecting supplies. Of course, because of my business, I'm on properties all the time and asking my customers, can I collect from these trees and stuff? And so I always have my supplies with me, but you can collect from right-of-ways. That is public, especially on state routes. You can collect from right-of-ways. That is legal. So that's okay. You have to make sure that you have permission and stuff like that from private land. You cannot collect from state parks or federal land, or, you know, preserves or anything like that unless you have permission. Okay, and sometimes the nice thing about being in a NIPSOT chapter is that if y'all take field trips out somewhere, sometimes you can get special permissions, you know, and you can get an in that and make relationships that way. Because a lot of times the people who run preserves, they understand the problem. They understand how serious the problem is, the plant shortages. They understand that, you know, we need to preserve these native plants and they are not available commercially. They're not being propagated on a large scale, and they're experiencing so many pressures from development and deer and climate change, et cetera, that, you know, they're becoming more and more rare. So sometimes groups like yours can be really powerful on a local level to get access to seeds that, you know, wouldn't be available in the community at all otherwise. Does that make sense, y'all? Okay, you getting excited? Yeah. Okay, so what I carry in my truck, I keep like a little file box kind of, because I have to keep like papers and stuff in there for my customers, but I also just carry envelopes like this, these kind of manila envelopes, so y'all can see at home. Just carry some manila envelopes with you over here, so you can just get some envelopes like this that you could collect in and just carry those in your car, along with, you know, a pen and some pruners, just little things. This is really intense. This is a very intense bunch of stuff to carry, but basically, this is the way I do it. I just like using these manila envelopes that you can pretty much fit anything in one of these. And then I'm gonna go through how to track what you collected too. My friend Stephanie, who's the one with the fall obedient plants, she always says, she jokes about how you can always tell where she goes to eat because all her seeds come in like Whataburger bags and stuff. So just keeps all those little bags in cars. So she eats the Whataburger and then throws seeds in there. So it's pretty good. So here's the how to do it. So you can pick or strip directly from the plant. For some, if you collect seed off of the ground, seeds that fell on the ground, try to get ones that look like they just fell, that haven't been sitting there for a long time, especially tree seeds, things like acorns. They expire really fast, especially once they're on the ground, they'll get worms in them and stuff like that, and they won't be viable. So it's better to collect right off the plant if possible. But if you have to collect off the ground, make sure that they're like from this year and they haven't been sitting there for more, from last year. You can shake or knock the plant to get the seeds to drop off, and you can like stick a bucket or something underneath the plant. I'm never that aggressive, like I've never do that myself. I'm usually just picking a few off of the plant at a time. So make sure that you check the seeds for decay or insect damage. Avoid damaging existing vegetation. Okay, so don't tromp on a whole bunch of plants to get to your one plant. Try to be respectful and mindful. Okay, don't climb any trees. Yeah. Don't get, it can get a little exciting. So it's like, keep it cool, everybody be cool, okay? So now to answer your question is how much to collect. Try to go with quality over quantity and take less than 20% of the seeds from an existing population. Okay, and really I have been in positions before where like with an agarita, I'll count all the berries on a plant. And I'll say like, oh, okay, there's 100 berries on this plant, then I'll take 20 of them, if I'm really like in the mood where I'm feeling really anxious about it, I will just do that for my own peace of mind. For the most part, you can kind of eyeball it. Usually if it's on a tree, it'll be whatever you can reach, ends up being less than 20% usually, because you're standing on the ground and not climbing any trees. Okay. So that way you're leaving enough seeds for the replenishing the native population, for wildlife. Okay. Because we're taking their food a lot of times, right? Any questions about that? Okay, cool. And then here's a little bit about seed distribution and how to process them so that you can share them. So seeds like the agarita that we just saw, they're inside of a pulpy fruit, right? And they're delicious. I like to eat agarita berries and then you can spit out the seeds and let them dry. Okay, just like watermelon seeds, you can do that too. Just let them dry. You can put them on like some towels under a ceiling fan overnight so that they can dry really well. So you can do that. Some seeds, this is a little bit more advanced, but some seeds that are covered with pulp can be fermented in water for a couple of days and the pulp will separate from the seeds. That's a really common practice for tomato seeds. So, tomatoes inside there, they have like that gel kind of. Okay. I have never done this, but some of my friends have collected seeds from animal scat. That's next level. It's wacky, but if you're on a mission to save the world one seed at a time, then those seeds count too. Yeah.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
I think they really need that extra
Yes.
digestion to be ready to plant.
Exactly. So she was just saying out here that's a good way for to process certain seeds like Texas persimmon. I think that picture is probably Texas persimmon right there of the animal scat with persimmons in it, because a lot of the trees and plants have evolved to have a really, really hard seed coat. And that seed won't be able to sprout unless it has gone through the digestive tract of an animal. And so pulling them out of the scat means that seed is really, really likely to germinate compared to a seed that is taken directly out of fruit. And a lot of nursery workers and research how to imitate the digestive systems of animals to get seeds to sprout by fermenting the seeds or soaking them in acids and scarification, like all kinds of stuff like that. That's for Asian class. So anyway, that's one thing you can do. I have not done that yet. So dry fruits, things like Texas buckeyes, for example, Mexican buckeyes, they have dry fruits and you can crack those open and the seed is inside. Loose seeds, you can store them in a breathable container. So that's why I like to use paper envelopes. Really good. Sometimes if you put seeds in plastic bags, like in Ziploc bags, if they have any moisture on them at all, that will cause them to mold and that can ruin them. So try to use something breathable like a jar or the paper is really the best thing. Okay. And then if you're going to keep them for a while for your own use, or you're saving them until the seed swap event or something, like until the next NIPSOT meeting, then you can store them in a paper bag or in a jar in the refrigerator. It's really important that the seeds stay dry. That's the most important thing. They need to stay dry for the most part. There's some exceptions. Acorns are one of the exceptions. But for the most part, all the seeds need to stay dry, and keeping them cool in the fridge is really good. Heat will cause them to expire. And so a lot of people make the mistake of storing seeds in their shed. And if it's hot, that will cut short the life of the seeds. Okay, they won't have as good a germination rate. Okay. So we host seed swaps. Central Texas Seed Savers hosts seed swaps. We always have a big seed swap at the central branch of Austin Public Library. That's a downtown library. If you haven't been there yet, it's really cool. It's a really fun place to visit. And so Saturday, October 12th, 2024 is going to be our big swap. We usually get over 100 people that come to swap seeds, all kinds of seeds there. And I would encourage y'all to host seed swaps down here. You know, it's a great thing to do. Yeah.
We have our annual chapter seed swap is at our November meeting.
Yay, good. Oh, awesome. Let me repeat that before I answer your question. Let me repeat that for the Zoom people. The November meeting is of the Lindheimer chapter of NIPSOT is the annual seed swap. Okay. And then you have a question?
Yes, storing your seeds in a big bag and then placing that in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
How long would they be viable?
Great question. So if you store your seeds in a paper bag in the refrigerator or in a jar in the refrigerator, how long will they be viable? It really depends on the seed. In general, the larger the seed, the longer it will be viable. Okay. Except for tree seeds. The trees are always an exception, almost always an exception. Things like acorns and walnuts and pecans evolved with squirrels. So they need to be planted right away. So you can't keep nuts and acorns very long, but just about everything else can stay in the fridge for a long time, or even stored at room temperature. That's why libraries are such a great place for seed collections, because the seeds need basically the same conditions as books. They need to be kept cool and dry, you know, so, you know, they have found squash seeds in caves and stored in terracotta pots in Arizona that are, 10,000 years old and still sprouted. They can last a really long time under the right conditions. But smaller seeds, when you get into things like, something like Gaillardia or purple coneflower echinacea, they're not going to last as long, like maybe a few years, and they'll lose their viability as time goes by. So, yeah, but they can last a long time. They're designed to last a long time, especially Texas native plants are designed to last a really long time. Something like a bluebonnet, can stay viable for years and years and years and years till the conditions are right for it to grow, because they know that the weather here is really terrible and the conditions are bad, and they might have to wait many, many years until they get the right amount of rain to be able to. So, yeah,
I was just gonna say, I think that's the fun part about this area, because I didn't grow up here. But that if you've got a good seed bank, you're gonna have fun new surprises every year.
That's true. And she said that's one of the fun things about gardening here, is that every year if you have a good seed bank, you're always going to have things popping up and surprising you. Yeah, I think that's one of the keys. When I teach my maintenance class at the Wildflower Center, I always tell people to learn how to identify seedlings, because you can save yourself a lot of pain and anguish by learning what the seedlings look like. So that way you're not weeding unnecessarily, because what you think might be a weed could be a plant that you want. So, yeah, did you have a question? Just you're stretching. All right. So one of the seed banking initiatives that we have with Central Texas Seed Savers is a program called the Seed to Tree Partnership. And this is a partnership with a nonprofit organization called Tree Folks in Austin. Are y'all familiar with Tree Folks?
Yes.
So Tree Folks is one of the older environmental organizations in Austin, and their mission is tree education and tree planting throughout Central Texas. And they have some reforestation projects that they've worked on, along the Blanco River after the floods there. And they've had a problem, and they do a lot of community tree planting in parks and schools and stuff like that, and reforestation and Bastrop after the fires out there. So they have a problem. They cannot purchase enough trees for their tree planting programs. And with climate change, we need to plant more trees worldwide. There is a tree shortage. You cannot buy enough trees. Okay, and especially here in Central Texas, most of the tree growers are in East Texas and South Texas, and they're not necessarily growing species that we want for Central Texas plantings. So this is a huge problem for Tree Folks. Some of the growers that they had on contract growing for them are retiring. This area, the cities in Texas, as you all know, are just growing by leaps and bounds. There's all this development. So all those developers need to buy trees too, because every single one of those houses, all of those apartment complexes, all of those businesses, they all want trees. They have to have trees in the parking lots. So it's really hard. And as a landscape designer, I know I really struggle to find enough trees for my projects too. So I get frustrated because I know when the nurseries are bringing in trees, a lot of times they're from California, they're from Florida, they may be live oaks, but they're live oaks from Florida, and they're not as adapted to the cold here in Central Texas. I could just go on and on and on. The red oaks, sometimes you'll get a shoe-marred oak at the nursery that's not adapted to alkaline soil. And it gets planted, it looks good at the nursery, it gets planted and immediately turns yellow and just declines from there. So it's really important for us to start showing that native Central Texas trees can be grown in nursery culture. And we need more diversity in the trees that are available at the nurseries. And so that's some of the problems that this program is trying to solve. So tree folks came to us, to Central Texas Seed Savers, and said, we have this problem. We're going to have to start growing our own trees. Can you help supply seeds? And we said, sounds fun. So let's do it. So here's what we're doing. Asking volunteers to collect tree seeds. We start with tree identification classes to help people learn the native trees and learn how to collect the tree seeds, and then send the seeds to tree folks, basically. And so if y'all are interested in that, there's all the information that you need on how to do this is at centexseedsavers.org. That's our website, centexseedsavers.org, on the seed to tree pipeline website. Okay. And so that's a lot of fun. And if I have time, I can show y'all how to do it. I'm starting to run out. So if we have time, I can show you all how to process some tree seeds, because I brought some to show. But here's our website again, and a few more resources for y'all. I was just talking about Jill Noakes with someone at the beginning of the class about that great book that she wrote that has some information about when to collect the seeds and stuff like that. But the truth is, there's not a whole lot of information out there either. And that is something else that Central Texas Seed Savers is trying to fill the gap in information collecting too, on how and when to collect these seeds. So that's something that we're always asking for people to share. Yeah.
Just a future resource, the State Society, Native Plant Society of Texas, just funded an intern to get all of the San Antonio Botanical Gardens propagation information into a system called, I want to say it's called Iris or Ibis or something like that, with the goal that about a year and a half from now, that database is going to be made open to
So
we're funding the intern to help get a lot of that data entry done, but the goal is a publicly accessible website where you can look up any plant you want and learn about.
Oh, good. I'm really glad to hear that. We really, really need that. That's great. So, I see, oh yeah, you have a question?
I'm trying to get my little blue stem spread around. It's already started to seed. It's almost 20% of the seeds are going away. Are they viable to survey? So I just go ahead and start putting banners in.
Blue stems depends on fire for germination.
I don't know. And that's a good example. So he's asking a question about.
I had some volunteer fires, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was asking a question about little blue stem grass, about the seeds look like they're getting ready now and starting to blow around, and you're trying to, propagate those at home, and whether or not they're ready. And I don't know for that one. So that's a really good example of, your one species for this year to research and try to find out, start asking everybody, get books, see what information you can find about little blue stem. I bet that one's probably in the Jill Noakes book. To know whether or not it needs fire or whatever it needs, when to know when it's ready and everything. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
The library has 2 copies.
Oh, it's out of print. If you try to buy that, it's super expensive. So get it from the library, and I'm glad you have 2 copies because it's out of print. So even that information is getting hard to find. It's a real problem. So any other questions, y'all? Do we have time for me to do a little demonstration? Okay, cool. Can we turn the lights on? Is that okay? Let's see if everybody at home can see.
I did have a comment. Tree folks, they have a urban forest tree steward and habitat steward training class where they did back in 2016. That's actually how I got my two native plants in the first place. was through the urban forestry service, which was around that tree space. So wonderful organization. They do a lot of good work.
Yay. Thank you for that plug. I believe you can watch during COVID, they put the whole thing online. So folks, urban forest steward classes. I used to teach part of it. And so I'm pretty sure you can watch the whole thing on YouTube now. So, okay, so I was on a little weekend trip. And I collected some willow seeds. This is black willow, Salix nigra, okay, for the Seed to Tree Partnership. And I didn't have I was in my husband's car, so I didn't have my envelopes. I always have a hanky with me, so I wrapped them up in a hanky. It was really important. I knew that the Tree Folks Seeds to Trees Native Nursery manager was looking for willow, that they are short on willow trees right now. So when I saw a willow tree with low branches with seeds that I was able to reach, we pulled over and started picking them. So, so you can see they're on fluff, where they can fly in the wind and float on water, because they always grow near water. So that's the tricky thing about tree seeds, is that you might see a tree that's loaded with seeds, but you can't reach any of them. So trees are big. Okay, so I'm going to show you basically what I do then is put the seeds in the envelope. Okay. And then I'll show you, there's a couple options for what to do after that. This is fine, like these are clean enough, basically. So I'm just gonna put them in there. Okay. And then on our website, you can print off the Tree Folks seed collection form. This is the easy way to do it, y'all. So I put, and show everybody at home. I put the seeds in this paper envelope. Okay. And then on the website, either the Central Texas Seed Savers website or the Tree Folks website, you can print off this. Okay. And if the seeds are dry, you can just put the form right in there with the seeds. If the seeds are not dry, like if you collect walnuts and they're still in the husk, or collect like agarita berries or something like that, and you're like me and you don't have the patience to clean them, just put them in a separate like plastic bag and put the form in a plastic bag too, so your form doesn't get all stained, because the information about the seeds is really, really important. It's just as important as the seeds. Okay, so collecting the information about the seeds is really important. Okay, so we need to know things like the date when the seeds were collected, because like we talked about earlier, some of the seeds lose their viability as they age. Okay, you can put the common name, the scientific name, and then either the coordinates or the collection address where the tree was, where the mama tree was. Okay, and the county where it was collected is important for Tree Folks, because some of their contracts for tree planting and reforestation, they have to have trees that are native to that county. Sometimes some of the requirements for reforestation are really, we get some applause from the NIPSOT folks for that. And then some notes, and then your name and information and the estimated number of seeds. There's no way I'm going to count all of these, So there are some, I think on the website, there's some kind of rules of thumb for estimating. Usually you can do it sort of the same way that like astronomers count stars, where you can kind of say, well, on this one stem, I counted 50 seeds and there's 10 stems here. then you do the math, and that's fine to estimate. It's okay. And then we didn't fluff everywhere. So you can do that. So that's all there is to it. And then you seal it up and you can send it to tree folks in the mail. So it's really helpful. The other thing you can do is if you do use iNaturalist, you can add your iNaturalist observation of the tree that you collected from to the Seed to Tree Partnership project. And then all you have to do is write on a piece of paper. You don't have to fill out this whole form. You can just put your iNaturalist observation number on a piece of paper and stick it in there. And then we'll have all the information there. And then we'll know where the mama tree is too. So that's good. So that's all there is to it. And you'll be making a huge, huge difference in the community by doing something that's really fun anyway. Kind of very human to want to gather and keep things. And then you'll be helping with reforestation projects all over Central Texas. So these rare trees, and my hope is that tree folks will be able to prove that some of these native trees are able to grow in nursery culture. A lot of times the growers, the professional growers want to grow these plants, but they don't have a source for the seed. And they don't want to take the risk and not knowing if the trees are going to do well in nursery culture or not. It's expensive for them, especially trees that take years to grow. So growing them in a nonprofit environment makes it easier where there's less risk. And we can say, yes, black willow will do really well in nursery environment. And maybe some of the commercial growers will start growing them later in the very long term. Yeah. Y'all have any questions for me before we wrap up? Any questions from anybody at home?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, thank you so much, y'all. I so appreciate it.